On this episode of Three Tool Players, we discuss the Mets, Phillies, Yankees, and the rest of the Major League's progress after the trade deadline by way of a game called True or False. The Hammers go to the Phillies game, and Brian is punished for wearing Yankees gear and is very bad to send Jobu to a New Kids concert. All this and more on this episode of Three Tool Players. Welcome to Three Tool Players. I'm Chris Spear, and alongside me, as always, are the Hammer brothers, Brian and Dan Hammer. Say hello to the internets, fellas.
Hello to the internets, fellas.
Ahoy, ahoy.
So you guys had an interesting evening last night. Before we get into our main topic, you guys had an interesting evening. You both went to the ballpark, Citizens Bank Park, to see Phillies versus Tigers. And were you doing a little bit of promotion for the show at the same time?
A little bit of promotion. I think one person was doing more than the other because I think someone's got a case of the shyness. Little Hammer.
Oh, stop it.
Little Hammer doesn't like the peoples.
No, it's
Little
not
Hammer.
that. I wanted to be in my element, all right? This Giacomo who lost the trivia game, he had to go into his Yankee uniform and get this crap, all right? He wore a red fitted hat. Now, I didn't see it until later. He had it backwards, so I couldn't see. I was like, are you wearing a Phillies hat? So I'm like, this dude is going to be selling out. He's going to put on a Philly hat, and he's a Yankees fan, and he's going to go in there. I was like, what a little puss. And then all of a sudden, he turns around, and that red hat is supporting a Yankee logo.
That's just,
I don't know.
It's just ignorant, though. I mean, you're going to a Phillies game wearing a red hat with a Yankees logo on it. I mean, I just feel like you deserve to get your butt handed to you at that point.
Can I go yet?
Oh, you can go right ahead.
Because
defend yourself.
Oh, I don't need to defend. The revisionist history here is absolutely just way off the mark. So what I find really great is Dan's got some great tickets. We're able to get a really nice view of the stadium. We got a good view of the action. In fact, we had a foul ball head towards us, and this is where we take umbrage with you, Mr. Spear. Yes, you.
Yeah, no, I was waiting for this to come up.
Because for those listening at home, Numbnuts McGillicuddy over here from Citi Field decides to text me and little brother, and we look down at our phones as Bryce Harper is at bat, and we look up, and a ball's about 5 feet away from me in my general trajectory. Now, this poor woman sitting in the seat right in front of me diagonal puts her hand up over her head. It bounces off her hand, basically breaks it, and then bounces off my kneecap. And now I have a baseball stitching tattoo just embroidered on my right kneecap. Bounces off, hits her in the back of the head. I go to grab the ball. It's a mad dash. Someone else in the seat next to her gets it. But I'll say this, the people around us, really nice folks. And when they realized that we were there because, well, one, to enjoy a wonderful baseball game, but two, the reason why I was wearing Yankee paraphernalia was because, yes, I did lose to said little brother, not once, but twice in terms of trivia on this very podcast. So as such, you show up to the Victor's Stadium, you put on the enemy colors, and you take your lumps. And I was quite surprised to see the Philly fan base just embrace me so.
Well, you said enemy colors, but you were wearing a red hat. So I wouldn't really say that you were wearing enemy colors.
Well, he went incognito. I mean, it was a clever ruse.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a distraction.
And you know what? You know what, Spear? You know what? Harper wasn't fazed by it because Harper hit that foul ball directly at Brian.
Right at
I mean,
him.
that was going right for him. There's no other Yankee fans in that stadium, and Harper targeted him in the 200 section. He probably just had this Yankee radar. He's like,
yep,
there's Nats clown that's sitting in the 200 section. Let's go hit him. So
that's how
what's clever about you know what's clever about that though, and I did mention this, Dan, you might have forgotten. There were actually a handful of Yankees fans, very little kids, running around.
Oh, they don't know better.
They don't know any better. All right,
that's bad parenting. That's bad parenting.
I think the parents had Phillies hats, but nonetheless, we had a wonderful time. And yes, Bryce Harper is a menace. He went and he assaulted that poor woman sitting in front of me, and she had a black and blue hand that she showed to us. And it was great that the Phillies staff came down to keep checking on her, gave her a bag of ice. They couldn't have been nicer in that section. So my hat's off. My red Yankees hat off to the Phillies staff there and making it such a wonderful experience for all. And let's face it, Dan, the night was yours. The Phils won with a 2-0 score and got to see your new closer in action. I don't understand why he's a spider. And I don't understand all, but you have to get in on this, Dan, because we established last podcast that your Spanish is worse than mine,
Yeah.
and his whole entire intro is in Español. So you got to get on that, brother.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to learn that whole song, man. So word for word. You think about how electric that stadium was, having a closer of his caliber, because we haven't had one in quite some time. So having him show up and do what he does best, you could see that the energy he was feeding off of it. You can't say anything like negative about it. I mean, like it's just everything is looking up for the Phillies right now.
Well, as long as we're talking about how electric things were at Citizens Bank Park, and again, it's in large part due to the fact that the Phillies made some acquisitions at the trade deadline that put themselves in a position to have this kind of excitement. So why don't we take a look at the trade deadline? We'll do this by way of a game that we've played quite a few times before called True or False. So true or false, the trades that the Mets and Phillies made didn't provide enough distance from each other.
As an outsider, let me just get this out of the way because you two are going to go at it like, two little schoolgirls who pull each other's hair on the schoolyard. You guys did basically the same thing. I mean, you gave enough horsepower to your bullpens, some utility, but not enough to separate yourselves. I mean, it's like, if I could do one thing, I could do better. I could do everything better than you. No, you can't. So that's basically what I saw in this trade deadline for both of your teams. So have at it. Both of you are pretty.
Well, I agree with Brian. I would say true to this. I would say that neither the Mets nor the Phillies did enough to provide enough distance from each other. I'd say it's true, but I'd argue that the pressure is more on the Phillies. The Mets had to make moves that were arguably more comprehensive. They needed to add an outfielder. They did in the form of Cedric Mullins.
Which
They
is
also
a phenomenal pickup too, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was something that we all knew was coming from Baltimore. Cedric Mullins was always going to be on the block. He's in a walk year, and he was doing all right. I mean, he doesn't have a high. He doesn't hit for average. He was averaging around 225. So, is he that much of an upgrade over Tyrone Taylor? I don't think so. But they also brought in 3 high leverage relievers in the form of Ryan Helsley, Tyler Rogers, and Gregory Soto. The Mets needed bullpen arms, and they got them. And the good news is, at least for the Mets, that they didn't give up any really big prospects that were ready for the big league team. Stearns did well not to give up the top of the farm for making improvements that were needed. The Phillies' move, on the other hand, was a much splashier singular acquisition. For Duran, the Phillies gave up a significant package of prospects to get one of the best closers in baseball, which they absolutely needed. It was their biggest need going into the trade deadline. They got their guy. And while they also got Harrison Bader for outfield depth, the focus of their deadline was the bullpen. So this is kind of a high-risk, high-reward move. If Duran performs as expected, it could be the piece that puts them over the top. If not, the price they paid will look pretty steep in the long run.
Now, I would have to say true to this as well. I don't feel that either one of our teams made enough to offset one another, but I feel that the Phillies and the Mets made the moves to offset them from everyone else in the NL. Both the Phillies and the Mets, they needed certain things to get them to another level. We definitely needed relief pitching help. If you guys remember, like the conversation that we had back in May, we blew, I think it was 8 out of 15 saves. 8 out of 15. So basically, we were batting 500 on saves, and that's not good. Just think
No.
if we had this guy in the beginning of the season, how many saves we would have had instead of having Jordan Romano go up there and pitch freaking meatballs to guys.
Yeah, and that's the thing that the Duran trade really mitigates is the effect on Jordan Romano on winning games. I mean, it can't be overstated how important it is not to have Jordan Romano finishing off games for the Phils that they're in the latter third of the season now when they're going to be in this dogfight for the National League. But here's a question. Duran comes from Minnesota,
Minnesota.
who had a bit of a fire sale. The Twins unloaded like 10 or 11 players in 9 separate deals. So true or false? The Twins are the Pirates of the American League.
I'd have to say false on that because I feel like the White Sox are the Pirates of the American League.
It's ugly. What's even more ugly is the idea that they dropped a lot of salary. They got rid of Carlos Correa, which I hadn't been a fan of since that signing. In fact, you remember, Spear, you guys decided to maybe ask him to prom, and he came and he failed a medical clearance through you guys, right? It's always funniest thing. You look at like when you read the news, and it's like, oh, we've signed this guy for hundreds of millions of dollars pending physical. Well, pending physical was a big deal to your team. I believe there was another team that also, it was San Francisco.
There was skeptical about the physical as well.
Skeptical,
That's right.
bad his knee, whatever, right? So then Minnesota says, you know what? We're going to splash some money at this guy. And doesn't throw up the same production. So they basically just send him back to his alma mater. The other thing that's interesting about the Twins is that they're going to be up for sale. So what does this mean to the overall process? Like me, looking at it from a business perspective, is this a nice way to kind of just level set expense and say, all right, we're still really valuable here with our field and all of our hard assets, blah, blah, blah. And hey, have fun. Now you have a blank slate of a team that you can now build. It's like buying a house that hasn't been painted. It's like, this is your blank slate to make what you will. So it's going to be interesting, but as far as being a competitive team, they're not going to be competitive for quite some time.
Well, and so this is why I would say, if somebody asked me true or false, the Twins are the Pirates of the American League, I would say false. They're worse. The Pirates have never had any expectations, right? You go into every Pirate season not expecting anything. There's nothing to do there to let fans down. The Twins have routinely had high expectations that they've never lived up to. Now there's nothing for fans to hold on to. Duran was a homegrown talent. Now Twins fans are going to watch him contend in the other league for the next 3 seasons. They signed Correa. You said they were going to make a splash. They're going to throw some money at him. Sure, they signed Correa to the big money deal 2 years ago with the intent to contend. Now he's an Astro again. And all of this was approved by ownership that's looking to sell the team and make it easier to sell the team that has a reduced payroll and now a stocked farm system. In the meantime, Twins fans have to feel gut punched and accept the several steps back that this franchise has to take while they wait for these prospects they acquire to mature, all while the ownership just continues to stuff their pockets. That, for me, that's terrible.
So, what isn't terrible is the way that you set this up, the way that you said this about, they're not the Pirates. You made me think of an old Simpsons episode. It was a recap episode, and they're going into commercial, and they said, who were the 2 popular Simpsons characters that died recently? And they came back from break and said, if you said Bleeding Gums Murphy and Dr. So-and-so, you'd be wrong. They were never popular, right? So that's you describing the Twins versus the Pirates.
Here's another team that might have sold their future. How about the Padres? True or false? The Padres sacrificed their future for a run at the Dodgers this year.
I'm going to say true, but with a caveat that the Dodgers are built to win for a very long time. So your window is shrinking. And if you're going to go, you're going to go hard. So I don't think San Diego had any other choice.
I'm going to have to say false on this. I'm going to have to agree with you on this, that they are built to win. The way that they're built right now, I mean, like they do have some tremendous talent in Manny Machado. They have Tatis. Those 2 guys alone are, the face of their franchise. Kind of like how the Phillies are with Trey Turner and Bryce Harper. You need at least 2 or 3 guys to be the face of your franchise. They have decent pitching. They brought in Mason Miller, who is lights out with the Athletics. So I thought that was a huge pickup by the Padres. And then signing Ryan O'Hearn, taking him from the Orioles. All of them were decent pickups. Now, did they trade away a lot? Did they jeopardize their farm system? A little bit. But they're trying to keep up with the likes of the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah, I would have to say true to this, and I agree with the reasoning behind it, but AJ Preller is kind of a madman. Picking up Mason Miller and JP Sears. Mason Miller is obviously the jewel of that trade. Last season, he was an all-star, and he finished with a 2.49 ERA, 28 saves, and 104 strikeouts in 65 innings. This season with the A's, though, he was rocking a 3.76 ERA with 20 saves and 59 Ks and 38 in the third innings. So he wasn't the same pitcher he was last year, but Preller gave up a boatload for him, including the number 3 prospect in all of baseball, Leo DeVries, as well as the Padres' number 3 prospect in Braden Nett, their number 13 prospect in Henry Baez, and their number 17 prospect in Eduardo Nunez. So that's a big haul for a guy who didn't look quite as good as he did last season, but still a good closer, a hard throwing closer. And you mentioned O'Hearn. The Padres sent 6 prospects to the Pickles Pub Brigade in exchange for O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano. Those prospects were their number 4 pitcher Boston Bateman, their number 6 prospect in Cobb Hightower, and their number 12 prospect in Tyson Neighbors. That's a lot to give up at the top end of a farm system. But what's amazing is that they keep figuring out a way to retool, despite the fact that this is what they do. This is kind of their organizational philosophy, is they give up their farm system to go get major league talent. Just to put that in perspective, here are a few of the players that the Padres have drafted that they've traded away. Trey Turner, James Wood, who went over in the Juan Soto trade, Mackenzie Gore, CJ Abrams, and Max Fried. They were all Padres draft picks, all part of their farm system. And yet the Padres keep finding ways to get back into the scheme of things. So yes, they traded away a piece of their future to give their Dodgers a run, but I think that's par for the course. Just it feels like a lot.
This reminds me of a team that's in the AL East that gives away everything that they need to win a World Series. It's kind of like they're taking a page out of the Yankees playbook. They're doing all the right moves to get their team into the playoffs, whereas the Yankees feels like they're doing the polar opposite. But we can talk about that later. But
Well, let's get into it right now.
Can we?
Let's get into it right now.
I
Let's do
thought
it.
we're gonna jump. We're gonna jump the turnstiles here, boys. We're gonna skip the other questions.
Let's get right into it.
Yeah, all right, go ahead. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you can make a fun statement about that, Daniel. But the business model isn't broken, considering the amount of World Series wins and pennants and beyond just postseason. We are a fixture. How about that? I'll use that word.
Okay.
The Yankees are a fixture.
All right, fixture. The
right,
Yankees added. All right, fixture. Hang on.
Keep going.
The Yankees.
Keep going.
The Yankees added 4 position players and 3 pitchers at the trade deadline. So true or false? The Yankees made the trades they needed to get back on top of the AL East.
Here we go. I can sum this all up for all of you right here and now through the text exchange that I had with the both of you on this Friday night. And I'm going to do my best not to curse here because I know this has to be clean. Who in the living ever fudge is this Bird guy? Colorado Reject has 6 blown saves this year, and he got invited to our party, like for real. And Bednar, 7 blown saves and a +5 ERA. These guys are the clowniest shoes I've ever seen strapped to feet, so desperate to close out a game. At one point, Bird has a 108 ERA because he only got through a third of an inning and gave up 4 runs on 3 hits, all of them earned. The Yankees were up 9-4 at this point in the game. This gentleman came in a third of an inning and almost erased our entire lead. But don't worry, we have another guy coming in to help that along, and that was Bednar. Came in through a third of an inning. He gave up 4 more hits, 2 runs, both of them earned on 14 pitches, and they lost the lead. So I'm like, what's happening here? And I say, welcome to the American League, you fudging tourists. Little Hammer just says, bah, ha, 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 ha. And I said, the 2 new guys just erased a 5-run lead in 1 inning. And he goes, against Miami? Ouch. So, of course, I give the Obi-Wan Kenobi meme of good job. A few moments go by. We take the lead. We're up for the save, right? We're up by 1 run going into the bottom of the 9th. I said, oh, look, all right, we're going to give it to the new guy. Give this new guy a spin. Doval. Little Hammer says, he looks legit. Very quickly goes, oh my God, E9. To which I reply, nice pickups, Cashman, right? Laugh emojis across the board from Daniel and Spear. And At this point, I had lost all patience and I said 3 terrible words. Hate this team. All 3 relievers were all picked up. This is the worst loss of the year. And my only response was, hey, let's grab from the doldrums of the National League and become mediocrely absurd. All right. Or basura, however you want to say it. Dan laughs and he says, I'm happy with my AL closer. And I said, that's because all the best stuff comes from the AL. And then Spear told me to settle down. So I've regaled you all on my feelings to answer your question about did the Yankees do everything they could to improve and to make themselves competitive with their pickups? Well, gee, Spear, that one experience alone where we had 2 relievers basically erase our lead, a third one come in and blow a save. We had 2 blown saves that evening. And oh, by the way, that right fielder, Caballero, I think his name is, he's also not off the hook because he made a drastic 2-base error to allow those runs to score, to allow the winning run to get to third base. And we got swept over the weekend.
Brian's saying false. Brian's saying false.
Very false.
Yeah.
Unequivocally false, Dan.
Do I need to say anything after that rant? All I could think of is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. If you guys remember that scene, bring out your dead. Bing, bring out your dead.
Come
Bing.
on.
And the guy who is like on the guy's shoulder, he's like, I'm not dead yet. That's the Yankees playoff chances. I'm not dead yet.
I don't think it's nearly that bad. I don't think it's that bad.
The guy that's holding him is the Yankees brass. He's like, oh, shut up over there. You're going to be stone dead in a second. And then the guy who knocks him out basically are the trade transactions that the Yankees got. I feel happy. I feel happy. Whack. Playoff chances. Dead.
I don't think it's that bad. I think the answer is false, but it doesn't matter. The good news is that nobody in the AL East went for it either. The Jays brought in Shane Bieber, who hasn't thrown a ball in the major leagues since the Tommy John surgery in April of 24. He's looked good in rehab stints as he makes his way back to the bigs, but it's an interesting rental. If he's half the pitcher he was before the surgery, it's a great ad for the Jays coming into the stretch run. Time will tell. The Rays didn't make any spectacular moves. They chose to fill in around the margins with some pitching, with Adrian Hauser probably being their biggest acquisition. The Red Sox added Dustin May and Steven Matz, who are a collective qualified meh. I might have been more excited about either of the two of them 5 or 6 years ago. So short of it is nobody in the AL East really went after it. And I don't think the guys that the Yankees got are as bad as they were this weekend. So if that's any solace to you, no, it's not.
It's not solace because I'm looking at this and they still have more blown saves than who we have. And I'm looking at their National League stats and I'm like, really? These are our saviors? These are the guys that are going to come turn it around? I get it.
They weren't intended to be saviors, right? I mean, they're
fresh arms. They're arms. Fine. It's true to that because our arms are absolutely tired in the bullpen. And now we just have to tough it out. And we cannot give away outs. We cannot make stupid blunders on the base pass like we've been doing all season. Our errors on top of it. I mean, we're not playing good defensive ball. And if you make your pitching staff throw extra pitches because you've made errors and you've made the game that much more difficult, you're going to win less and less games. That's science, dude. So, yes, I'm a little frustrated with my team here. I know they're better than this.
Well, let's stay with the AL East. It's been an interesting turnaround for the Red Sox since the Rafael Devers trade. The Red Sox have the 4th best record in Major League Baseball at 21-15 as of the end of July. And they had the best winning percentage in the league for the month of July. So true or false? The Rafael Devers trade turned the Red Sox season around because he was bad in the clubhouse.
True. That man is clubhouse cancer. See you later. Enjoy the West Coast. Because now go look at the correlation of San Francisco's record since he showed up. You want to tell me how good they're doing right now?
Yeah, they're 13-23 since the trade, with the lowest runs scored in baseball during that span.
And the man has yet to even go to be a tour guide at Alcatraz. So it's only going to get worse from here.
It's definitely true. They got rid of negative energy. When it comes to energy, whether it's positive or negative, it's going to be fed off of. If you have negative energy, creates more negative energy. So that means everyone in the clubhouse is going to have that negative feeling. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, positive energy feeds positive energy. So right now, everything is on the up and up for the Red Sox, whereas for the Giants, it's a downward trend. And basically it just boils down to that Devers trade. Like what happened when he came over to the Giants? I mean, like I would love to be just a fly in that clubhouse just to see how it is in there.
And you know what? It could be completely just coincidental. I mean, again, we're just looking at straight records here, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to say false to this. We were kind of bullish on the Red Sox early on. I thought the Sox had a good team before the Devers trade. Injuries to Tristan Cassis and Alex Bregman slowed them down a bit early on. And certainly you can talk about the records that both the Red Sox and Giants have had since the trade going in opposite directions. But I don't think that tells the whole story. With Devers gone, other hitters in the lineup have stepped up. Jaron Duran has been a key contributor. He's improved his approach at the plate and he raised his OPS significantly in the month of July. Cedane Rafaela and Romy Gonzalez have had hot streaks, providing a bit of a spark in the lineup. But most importantly, Lucas Giolito has been a different pitcher since early June. He's gone 7-1 with a 2.03 ERA in a 10-start span. And that, I think, is a key factor in the Red Sox winning over the course of the last month and a half. So it's tough to tell if that was due to Devers clearing the air from the clubhouse by leaving or just a matter of players hitting their stride.
You know, it'll be really fun a year from now. We find out that Devers is the actual cause because he has this propensity to go into, the pitcher meetings and give them like noogies and like bully the hell out of them and say, pitch better, right? How hilarious would that be when we find that out a year from now?
Or he's got just some bad juju. He went to New Orleans for a bachelor party or something, and he got cursed by somebody practicing voodoo or some crazy stuff. Who knows?
He drank Jobu's rum. We figured it out.
Jobu's rum.
We figured it out. That's it. What happened?
Very bad. It's very bad. It's very bad.
That's afraid.
Now, but it's the entire Giants. It's like all of the San Francisco Giants. Their bats are afraid.
No longer Giants.
All right, one last one. True or false? The Mariners were the undisputed winners at the trade deadline.
I'm going to say absolutely true. I think that they did a fabulous job. The idea that they picked up a couple of very big bats, Suarez, Naylor, but the idea that they also brought in some good bullpen help in Ferguson. They absolutely crushed it for this deadline. They were able to get stronger. They were able to not give up their future. They were able to be patient. Who knows? This might be the turning point for this franchise to, I don't know, maybe see their first World Series.
I'm gonna have to agree with you this one. They needed bats. They went out the front office. They got the bats that they needed. Right now, you see that like it's a three-headed race right now in the AL West with the Astros currently leading. Even with the Texas Rangers, they're rejuvenated their stance from where they were in the first couple months. Right now, like the Texas Rangers, they were not in a place to compete. Now they're only 2 games back from the Mariners. So the Mariners, they had to do something to get this team up another level. And bringing in Suarez, bringing in Naylor are 2 key pieces for them to make a good playoff run.
So I also think it's true. Cal Raleigh is killing the ball, and he seems poised to make history every time he comes to bat. Their pitching was already there. So general manager Jerry Dipoto saw an opening and went for it in a wide open American League. By the way, the Mariners now have 2 of the top 5 batters in home runs this season now with Raleigh and Suarez.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of pop in that lineup. And both Naylor and Suarez join a lineup that has Raleigh, has J.P. Crawford, has Jorge Polanco, has Randy Arozarena. A lot of pop in that lineup now, especially in the 3, 4, 5 slots. Who's going to want to see Raleigh, Naylor, and Suarez in the playoffs late in the game in the 3, 4, 5 slots in that lineup?
That's a scary matchup. It really is. Think about it. I mean, like you take a look at their lineup right now. You see Randy Arozarena, Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, you have JP Crawford, and then you have Suarez. That's a sick lineup. That is an absolute sick lineup.
Yeah, yeah. So I wouldn't want to see these guys in the playoffs. Time will tell. Time will tell. Either way, it's going to be fun to see. The American League got a lot more interesting after the trade deadline. A lot more interesting. Far more interesting to me than I think the National League. Right? The National League, I think, still maintains some of the status quo. right? It's still going to be the Mets and the Phils, still going to be the Brewers and the Cubs, and it's still going to be the Padres and the Dodgers. And I don't think anybody else made any kind of moves that's going to change that status quo. Do you guys feel any differently about that?
No, not at all.
No, I feel that like, everything that you just said right there, those six teams are basically kind of stapled in that are going to be in the playoffs. I don't see anyone else overtaking any one of those teams in the East, Central, and West in the NL.
Unless there's
Yeah,
a
I mean,
monumental like collapse
Mhm.
with any, one of those teams, right? So, Milwaukee's been playing really well as of late, but they've been streaky, So, the Cubs have been going back and forth with them. I think the Cubs are still in great shape. The next team on the wild card as of this recording is Cincinnati. They're a few games over 500, and then San Francisco's just at 500. So is Miami, thanks to a wonderful sweep of my beloved Bombers this weekend. You're welcome. We really hope we made your Christmas card list this year. We look forward to that.
yeah, I guess in the American League, things are a little bit more open. You still have the Tigers, still have the Astros, still have the Blue Jays, at least right now. And then Boston and New York and Seattle and Texas, they're 2 games out of the wild card. The Guardians are 3 games out of the wild card right now, and the Royals are still lurking. They're in there at 3.5 back. So it's a lot more interesting in the American League. And if anybody gets hot and gets on a run, and by the way, don't count out the Reds. Terry Francona is the skipper over there. Don't count that team out.
You guys both have to be surprised on where the Atlanta Braves are right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Braves are incredibly bad. I mean,
Trying
they're
to,
they're as bad as the Pirates, and that's epically bad.
Yeah, and that's bad. That's bad mojo right there. In fact, they have actually a worse record than Pittsburgh at this moment by mere percentage points. But it begs the question, whose dog did Atlanta run over on the way to the ballpark? Like, there's nothing but bad mojo around them right now. They're not, they got hit by the injury bug. They're not playing to their potential. And this is just not the Atlanta team that we had envisioned coming into this 2025 campaign.
Yeah, somebody in Atlanta didn't just drink Jobu's rum. They took the barrel. They got a cigar. They got everything from Jobu. They stole Jobu. They punted Jobu over the outfield fence. I don't know what they did, but
well, they did something. They probably they undressed him. They threw him in a New Kids on the Block T-shirt, and they made him follow the band around. And they're going to concert after concert, Coliseum after Coliseum.
Jobu's hanging tough.
He's hanging tough. And you know something? Atlanta is paying the price.
You defaced Jobu. You disgraced him.
It's very bad.
Very
very
bad.
Very bad.
Very bad.
Shame on you, Atlanta. Shame on you. And the only thing that may save you is that cane sugar coming out of your Coca-Cola factory. So make that happen quickly, because we're all waiting with anticipation.
Well, so I'm not going to apologize for you taking the ball off your leg there, pal. I mean, I'm sure it's smarts. I'm sure it's smarts knowing that Bryce Harper spotted you in the stands and decided, I'm going to get that guy. I feel for the woman in front of you.
It was collateral damage.
Yeah, collateral
basically
damage.
it. Yeah.
Collateral damage. Collateral damage.
Bryce Harper's a menace.
Bryce Harper's a menace.
That's what you need to take away from this episode. This is what you need to take away from this episode of the Three Tool Players. Bryce Harper is a menace.
Stop it. No, I love him. Good guy. Great guy.
What did he do for you? He never came over to your house and loaned you money or moved the furniture for you? Stop it.
I'll tell you what, I think Bryce Harper has listened to every single one of our episodes of the Three Tool Players podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, or on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. I think he's smashed those like and subscribe buttons, because that's what the kids do, and that's what Bryce Harper does, because he's cool like that. And I'm sure he follows us on TikTok at Three Tool Players and on X.com at Three Tool Pod. I'm putting an awful lot on Bryce Harper right now, so I hope he carries through for us. For Brian and Dan Hammer, I'm Chris Spear, and we thank you for listening to this episode of Three Tool Players.